They say time flies when you're having fun, and we're having a lot of fun here with the Mini Stocks National Tour, so we're already at the halfway mark. Welcome to round 3 out of 6 in our very special Mini Stock series, as we do leave the national confines of the US for the first time, and we hit up the United Kingdom. Don't ask me what I was thinking when I came up with the name myself, because we had the Oulton Park, the Foster's layout, as chosen for this championship. Super fast sweeping course with massive, terrifying elevation change. The bane of many a rookie driver's iRacing career. Certainly was mine when I threw the MX-5 repeatedly off the back portion of this track. But I think it will suit these cars and the sort of drivers we have on the field just fine. We're about to enter qualifying for this very special race, presented slightly differently as normal. There were issues with the live stream, so I was able to reconstruct the whole race. And we're coming back at you with qualifying Howie, Burroughs, and this we are alongside Justyn Reynolds. Now, just before this session went live, you ran yourself a few laps and you had some problems.
Thanks for having me, but I ran about maybe 10 or so laps here in practice. I was having all kinds of issues with the car. This thing is not easy to drive around here.
It is a tricky, difficult car. I remember you saying you couldn't even quite see over the hood of the car properly. There's 7 drivers on the field for today's race. Plenty of the usual suspects, including so far season leader Michael Havlickerton and Vlad Tokarev, who was our fastest in practice again, alongside a lot of the field from the Oulton Tech team as well, and 1 or 2 new arrivals. We're just going to run some qualifying laps around. As ever, they have 10 minutes and 3 laps to set a time, and we'll just talk through this. We'll just talk through this lap of this circuit, I think, because it really is just scary in its own right.
There's tons of trouble spots for these cars. Now, these things ain't the most maneuverable, and we're here at a very old, well-known circuit with a lot of sweeping blind left and right-handers. It almost kind of reminds me of Road Atlanta back in the States, with the elevation changes, the blind corners, and just the raw amount of speed you're going through with them.
Indeed. And as I said, when I was new to iRacing, I very much struggled across the wilder final sector of this track. But the whole thing is really a tricky experience. We'll go on board with Daniel Solo now. Let me just get to show you a lap of this track indeed. And every corner of it is a trial and tribulation. Those early corners near the start of the track, you can go quite wide, as we head down into the newly formed for this layout Foster's Corner. They've got a nasty curb on the inside. It's certainly the tightest we'll face so far. Usually you sort of wrap around the back or down these super fast long straights. Then we have Clay Hill and past the water tower as we approach Druid's Corner, which you just want to throw the car into the side of. Try and crest it over as much as possible. Not quite the Brands Hatch Druid, but hey, MSV, who owned the track, like to name quite a few things quite similarly. We had down Warwick Bridge and into the, my opinion, the hardest corner on the track, the Lodge Corner, as it goes up and down and up again. It's an absolute roller coaster, quite unlike anything else in the UK. I do need to visit this one day, but Americans laugh at me when I say it's too far away. You guys seem to live your lives on other ends of the world when it comes to how far things are away. Here's looking on board with Vlad Tokarev. Now, due to the nature of this recording, it's going to be difficult for me to really bring you the live standing. So we'll take a tour and 1 or 2 more laps, and I'll introduce you to the starting grid for this sprint race, as we can transition straight into it and get straight ahead with the racing. So, starting out our sprint race. Now, we have 7 drivers here today, which means all of the drivers will be reversed going into the second race. not just the top 8. We have less than 8, so everybody gets reversed, but there are 2 points for your pole position driver. Up in P1, it's Vlad Tokarev, with Michael Aflissadon taking in P2 behind him. Championship rivals, maybe to the end. Eric Blixt sits in P3 with Daniel Solo in P4. Behind him, Nicholas Ramson. He's the boss of the Architect organization. He's been deputized to maybe show his own teammates the bumper, with Will Shack in 6th. And Kingsley Nwoko in 7th, a new driver to the field today. Didn't get much practice going in, unfortunately, but tight deadlines, and this is not really a combination you see much of. With that said, I think it's about time we transition into the first race. It will be 8 laps for the sprint and 14 laps for the feature. Vlad Tokarev starting in the P1 position with, alongside him, Michael Aflissadon in P2. Pace car is going to pull in and we will have a race on our hands. It's green when Vlad takes control of the field. And he gets going. Vlad Tokarev leading the way down turn 1. Very clean getaway from the field. Few drivers trying to go wide as ever. But Vlad Tokarev keeps the P1 as we run down the hill. Will there be any incidents? Will there be any drivers going ultra wide and troublesome? A few bouncing all over that curb, but we get one by one very nicely getting out of this start of the race.
Falcon Tech 2 through 4th right there. Just a small little horde right behind the man.
Vlad Tokarev getting a huge getaway on the spot here as Eric's blitzed behind Michael. Forms sort of that Alcantech team with Ramuson not running the Alcantech design, but trust me, he's one of them as well. And Daniel Solo. They're going to get their knives out like they mean it. Will Shack and Kingsley Nwoko trying his best around here. It's going to be a bit of a journey, but he'll get to start pole if he starts from the back like this. Vlad Tokarev making a nice getaway. Not seeing too much aggressive moving and passing. We have only 8 laps in this sprint race. Michael Aflissadon leading the way still, but there aren't too many bold passing opportunities. Really, I think this is a track we are going to take advantage of people's mistakes.
Same thing, making sure we don't lock up those rear brake rotors coming into these heavy braking zones. Try to maximize the track limits, even though it's a little bit hard in visibility to see over the right side of the hood scoop. Trying to make sure they maximize every small part of this track. Elevation changes, really not making the suspension too happy. The curves don't help either. Just watch.
That is going wide there for Michael Aflissadon, and he pushes off Eric Blixt along the way. Oh, it certainly is a struggle. It's certainly hard to see behind the trees as well. But Eric Blixt holds the inside line, and he's going to take that position away from Michael Aflissadon for now.
Nose the tail down the start-finish straight.
And fastest lap being set by Vlad, who's going to get away with it. He's going to have a field to punch up. All the drivers go wide here onto the grass. But it's still that 1, 2, 3. Daniel Solo did also... He must have made it past Nicholas Ramson as well in the back as Michael Aflissadon tries to make that move. And in fact, he's going to lose a little bit more. He goes wide. Daniel Solo now claims the P3. It's drivers on bumpers around here. They're unsettling each other as they jostle for position. It's side by side. Daniel Solo just trying to murder Aflissadon off the road there. That was almost a NASCAR style move. And if that wasn't, I don't know what is. Eric Blixt just sent wide with a full body collision, and Eric Blixt now running so slow. Nicholas Ramson's going to make the place up, trying to dive into these final few corners. Number 71 there of Nicholas. He's their boss, so maybe they should be considerate. But right now, the 95 keeps the advantage for now a little bit. I gotta say, I do accept contact and I do accept using the bumper, but that was a bit of an outrageous move.
Elbows way out, brakes being tested here. If you watch in the few shots, you see those brake dust just kick up smoke all over the track. Small little hops over the curb, small little lockups there from behind the 95.
Everybody just on the limit of locking their brakes. Open setups are available. I don't exactly know who is milking them, but Eric Blixt is right on the tail of Nicholas. Is right on the tail of Eric. Eric is pushing Daniel down the road. His car's just sliding every corner. Mike Liston seems to be getting away with this quite well. Vlad Tokarev has obviously run away like it's absolutely nobody's business. And you talked before the session here about the power to weight ratios in these cars. They don't look like a beast, but they certainly do pack a lot for what they have.
They sit at just under 2,400 pounds at 200 horsepower. They're zippy little things as they use all that little runoff there, all that little graded mesh off the curb. Basically pushing each other down the backstretch here.
And the 13 still just, he's pushing him down the straight, just trying to scare him straight. Daniel trying to force his way past Eric Blix to make up that P3. It's not been done quite yet. As Daniel Solo, only has a few more laps really to make that opportunity up. There are points on the board for everyone in this sprint due to the lower driver count. Nicholas Ramson, I think he's biding his time, waiting for something horrible to happen. There has been some real elbows out, contact and carnage today. Still Daniel just getting in on there, trying to get in on that rear. You almost see him just trying to push the car in front out of the way every single time.
Almost shades of Vickers and Stewart at Sonoma, basically pushing each other through the corners here. Always on his rear end. Slight little walk up there.
And there, Daniel's gone horribly wide. He's going to recover that. I don't know if iRacing will slow him down for that. I don't think it will, but he's definitely lost time no matter what. Now, you don't know the team dynamic here. Is that the Alcatech drivers promise to race each other harder than anybody else on the field. So they don't work together. They certainly do just bash and smash each other, but the field is spreading out a little bit more with what's going to be 2 to go when Vlad Tokarev next crosses the line as he jumps in and out and around of this track. There's Dan Solo behind.
Absolutely mental to play 6-second gap within 6 laps times.
The gaps are now about a second plus each. So I think this is going to settle kind of where it lands, but there could be a horrible mistake. We're on board with Daniel Solo here, just watching drivers around both ends. Don't exactly think there's going to be a revolutionary shift here, but getting every lap around here is an achievement in itself, and you can see the car just getting terrified over the absolute roller coaster of this track. Vlad Tokarev up front will take the white flag relatively soon, and he truly has had the greatest race. He really got off well in this sprint last time, and then the feature where he had to battle through people was a little bit trickier. I cannot believe I keep falling for that TV1 prank. TV1 camera on this track is pranking me. It really is. It's playing horrible games with me. So Vlad Tokarev is going to cross the line here, and he's going to take the white flag, I believe. There it is, as official in our data. Looking further down the field, Will Shack and Kingsley Nwoko have been running their own races. It's always a struggle around here. They're going to have to start at the front. So turn 1 is going to be a terrifying experience for these drivers. And they do still claim some points on the record. Here's Vlad Tokarev, though, as we run around his last lap of our little sprint. And it's going to get really serious in the feature. He's pulled off 6.5 seconds in 8 laps. It's like the man has practiced and come to claim the prize. And he takes his second sprint of the season in 2 entries, as he did miss the first round around. And he'll be very happy and pleased with himself to cross the line with the checkered flag. My God, Liston takes in the P2. I think there'll be a bit of a race on their hands for the next one. Eric Blixt finishes in 3 with Solo in 4 and Nicholas Ramson behind. The Architect drivers do like to pull off some pranks past checker flag, but that'll be a 5-minute warm. We'll use that to review what we saw and possibly work out some themes. Oh, here they come. Here they know there's a jump, and they take the jump, the rally jump. They love finding a jump around this track. They promised me there would be one. The trees have upstaged me. First of all, though, the results from this first race. We should just be able to get them on here, and we'll take a look at exactly how drivers fared. 8 laps, and Vlad Tokarev took the P1 as he does ever, with a huge 7-second advantage in P2. Michael Ablissadon with Eric Blixt in P3, Daniel Solo in P4, Nicholas Ramson in P5, Will Shack in 6th, and Kingsley Nwoko in P7. And that was just a sprint. We're going to reverse this entire grid for the feature as we take a little look at some of the moments that really defined that race. Now, Vlad Tokarev was really the fastest driver on the field the whole time. And already you can see the field behind him as he just flies through this field. Now, behind, these Architect drivers had a little bit of an altercation. They certainly had what you could call contact. Contact, loosely saying it. I let the Architect drivers drive each other like absolute buffoons, but here's Daniel Solo basically sending Michael Ablissadon there in the 81 side by side into the shadow, and there was a big brake lock up, and that sent the 95 of Eric Blixt far back down the field. That's very much how it settled between those three, although Nicholas Ramson did get involvement in it as well. As
just like an oval collision there.
This is Nicholas Ramson getting side by side, passing by Eric Blixt, but it didn't last forever. As you can see, those brakes lock up. They do block up under pretty much any pressure whatsoever. As Will Shack was last seen finishing near the back in the last race. That's going to result in him getting a front of the grid pole position for this future race. On number 13, sending it for a real spin. And you know, they should consider themselves lucky that I didn't make them do the chicane. That's all I'll say. Little solo around.
The Foster's layout compared to the full.
The
it's
full,
almost a mile cut off.
My favourite is the full without the chicanes. I remember it was the series with the Cadillac and the Optima there, and you could blast that Cadillac, all the CTSV race car, all the way down that track, and like you're just holding on for dear life, just hoping you don't die. Foster's is where a lot of the rookie series go. I remember driving this, the MX-5, and the second half of that track just absolutely threw me for a loop. It would just throw me all over the track and all over the place. It was a really, really messy and difficult circuit. As Daniel Solo showing us a good drift. Now, it's important to know that we did evaluate incidents from the prior race, and Daniel Solo will be starting from the end of the line in the feature race. He did take out another driver pretty poorly, and when it's not Architect and Architect violence, we do penalise the worst of moves around here. Only a few minutes left in this warm-up. I give him 5 minutes. Probably a few minutes too many.
I'm more surprised with the resiliency of these cars, with them absolutely beating and banging on each other and them not falling apart.
They build the road. They build those road cars tough. And these are basically modified road cars. Kingsley Nwoko starts in P1 with Will Shack in P2. Nicholas Ramson in P3, and Daniel Solo will be moved to the end of the longest line for an incident at Summit Point Raceway. I'll bring up Eric Blixt and Michael Ablissadon with Vlad Tokarev, our strongest driver in the sprint, starting at the back of the field. Drivers just gridding up now to get this start ready. And I tell you what, It's scary being the slowest car at the front of a pack. Terrifying. It's like putting the GT3s at the front of IMSA. It is just a horrific experience. Now Daniel knows about that. I've given Daniel the self-enforcement on the end of line here. I think hopefully he'll do this right, or the penalty will be even more severe next time around. Someone's screaming him! They'll find a good time to do it. He messaged me minutes before the start of the feature about this. Kingsley Nwako didn't get much practice in, dived into the session and quickly learned how hard these things would be. I cannot believe TV1 is blocked by a tree. Like, I cannot believe iRacing just, like, marked that and they're like, that's great. Daniel should be moved to the back here. I don't know if the drivers behind are completely aware of this, though. It's a short pace lap after all. We're just going to get going with this field and we'll deal with the consequences of that one later as Kingsley Nwako leads the field away. And I do see Vlad Tokarev is tangling there with Daniel in the back. Daniel is at the back. We're going. Nicholas Ramson is the one that's already flown his way up the field. And he's going to already get into contact here with Kingsley Nwako as Will Shack has dropped very, very far back straight away to get out of the field. And that's Nwako turned around completely. He's backwards. He's going to be sent and he's going to tow and give it up. That's not the sort of thing we wanted to see around here, as Eric Blixt also had troubles from the start. We'll review it after the fact as Will Shack kind of wobbling around at the back of the field as well. Just about keeps it together. Got Daniel Solo up in front and Eric Blixt, who must have had an incident of his own, a little bit behind. Nicholas Ramson leads the field right now as Michael Felicity tries to outbrake into the back section of this track. He doesn't get away with it for now, and Vlad Tokarev's going to be all over the rear in order to make this happen. We have 14 laps. Ignore any suggestions. It'll be about half an hour. I'd love to see it. As Michael Felicity makes the dive into T1, throws it up the inside, and he does come out ahead. A very clean pass, and Vlad Tokarev isn't done by any means. He's going to get alongside as well. He's going to try and tussle this as a 71 versus a 77. It's quite hard to tell the two apart, but it's not quite going to work for Vlad Tokarev as Daniel Solo gets the best. That's Ramson ahead as I think that's Tokarev turned around. I think he turned himself around there under the pressure, actually. We'll try and review all these as quickly as possible so we can get a sense of what's, because a lot just happened there on those first couple laps.
Piercy hit the curb and he just went right around.
I think it was the curb. I think, that replay ain't going to help us out too much. Maybe this one will if we go back a little bit further. I think it was an unlucky curb hit. Yes, it was. Car got very much unsettled around there, and he's going to have to mount and fight his way back up to the top as Michael Felicity up in the front sets our fastest lap of the race so far, and just behind him you can see Daniel Solo almost completely losing it. Nicholas Ramson's now going to have a chance to make up time alongside Eric Blixt as these Architect boys, they sure know how to fight each other. Vlad Tokarev was incredibly fast and he has time to make this up now, but he's still got distance to make. Here's the three drivers chasing each other down, the 95, the 71 and the 13. There haven't been too many passing opportunities on the track, but that hasn't stopped people from absolutely sending it.
We watch a lot of overtakes take place in turn one. They all try to set it up there. You can watch them lock their brakes against each other, trying not to pile drive somebody into the outside wall there.
Nobody quite wants to be sent to the shadow realm over here very much, but yeah, it has been a very popular chance. The drivers can go quite wide there without getting a significant off track as Eric Blixt is trying to size up Nicholas Ramson. We'll see if he makes the move. Not quite yet. He does have better exit speed, though. He's going to get as far behind as possible. The 71's actually going to move aside as Vlad Tokarev is setting the fastest laps. He's back in it. He does get the pass done there. Eric Blixt for P3, and that's Nicholas Ramson going very wide onto the gravel and returning to the track in time. We've seen one victim of those curbs. Hopefully, we won't see too many more. They are definitely tall and tough. In real life, some of the curbs have this, like, circle grading on them that just, like, bumps drivers up in the air like a jump. It's nasty. If you've ever driven this track in Toka Race Driver 3, you'll know what I mean. It's not a very easy track to get around in there at all. This is one of iRacing's older tracks in the sim, which means that it doesn't have the fully up-to-date 3D curbs yet, but they are revisiting some of their British tracks. I know they've got a rescan of Brands Hatch coming, and this may also be on the list. Love to see it updated. It is an absolutely brilliant track, even though it definitely shows its age through those trees. So Vlad Tokarev is the fastest driver here, and he did set the fastest laps already, and he has some laps to make up points now. He set another fastest lap of the race. There's no doubt that Vlad Tokarev is the fastest guy here, but that's a whole team of drivers ready to block him out of his race. Nicholas Ramson.
Some of us were in the chat jokingly saying this track was the Alcantag bumper test track for good reason.
I found out how to bump draft in my mini stocks. I call them my mini stocks as if like I run them. That's not really the case, but I run the league, so they're my cars after all. But yeah, we've learned how to bump draft around here. I've even seen people bring these to the super speedways and have a good time. That low power just means the draft works really, really well. I just beg iRacing to let us make them asymmetrical. There is a dirt mini stock, and we will be taking them to a rallycross track for the finale. It'll be the week after Christmas. It's going to be a real New Year's treat as we take these cars in a vein that they've never quite driven before. Stay subscribed, because next week we go to Oran Park in Australia. So much for the national tour, as the 71 gets turned around by Vlad Tokarev. Well, I say by Vlad Tokarev, that might be a little bit unfair. I don't know if he did it to himself. We'll check that one out in the great old chopper cam. There's always a chopper. Oh, it is a nasty little accident. Both drivers there trying to bump off that curb, and Vlad just sort of ends up in the back of Nicholas. Bit of a racing incident, to be honest, but it's unfortunate to see more drivers turned on that on Fosters. I knew Fosters would be tricky for these cars, and it really has proven to be a real challenge. But those curbs were not the part I was expecting.
Victims of the 4-leaf spring suspension in the rear, as we see a lockup from the 13 opening the door.
Eric Blixt making it past Daniel Soller. You'd think conventional wisdom would be the one run wide, but every driver has run wide that we've seen so far has really struggled, but Daniel Soller gets him back into the Foster's turn. It's very tight, more brake lockups from these drivers, but Daniel Soller is able to claim it for himself. Maybe they'll go a little bit bumper to bumper as we see Vlad Tokarev behind. It's more like Tokarev, I think. Well, I always get names wrong. It's like my main specialty. Eric Blitz is going on, look to get that place back as we see smoke coming out from the back of Solo. These brakes are locking so easily here. Now they're getting violent on each other. More door banging. Don't bring us the trees. Bring us the actual race over here. Daniel Solo gets the best of it now. Let me just capture what was just missed there. But yeah, they did definitely just get a little bit violent. I think I did. I let them do it. I let them get away with it. They're going to get it out of their systems. Daniel Solo proving that right now he rules the road. Eric Blix, though, not even close to done. The 95 looking to chase down Solo, but for all of this time, these two spend battling as they jump into that Foster's turn. And this time, Vlad Tokarev's going to be making up time on the rest of the field.
Tokarev's just lurking in each frame we see of these two battling. He's just always in the tail end of it. He's right there. Only takes 1 or 2 mistakes from the two for them to catch up.
Going to be two friends killing each other that will just grant free positions without him even having to earn it. As I just looked a little bit at the battling down behind as Nicholas Ramson makes his place back after being turned around. Eric Blix looks right, doesn't get much of it, tries to look left, now trying to go on the outside in the latter portion of this circuit. Still more door banger, but you can see that Vlad Tokarev is already on the back. Is by no means waiting for this field. He's going to force his way through the middle if he absolutely has to, as both drivers in front there completely mess up their braking. This could end up going 3 wide. Eric Blix in the blue car up ahead. We're going to look at Vlad here trying to squeeze his way through, but I think this P2 is almost inevitable if there's no disaster here. And then I don't know about his capability of chasing down this P1, but he is running laps that are 2 seconds faster than Michael's. So I don't think anything's impossible here.
Question is there enough time to chase down the 81 after making quick work with these 2 cars?
Comparison between these 2 drivers, we'll keep it on the field so we can see how their laps compare as Vlad looks to try and size up the Oulton Tech boys now. It's going to make it past 2 around this tricky track, but the 95 of Eric Blix does hold the inside for now, forces Vlad around the outside. He's going to lose pace. It's not over for him at all. He's still setting faster laps. That lap was just slower than Michael's, but he was stuck in traffic. This is certainly traffic indeed that he's going to want to dispatch of. This racing has been pretty spectacular between the two. Between all 3, really, but Vlad's only just thrown himself into the game very, very recently. It's bumper to bumper to bumper through Foster's. All 3 of them get away with it. And continued chasing. Vlad's going to look still to make his move soon. I don't know who's going to cause the bigger catastrophe. I think this is going to end in tears for someone on the field. That's the 13 of Solo locking up his brakes. That's going to make one position easy. Brake lockups are such a big factor today. This is usually the fastest track on the schedule, but I wasn't expecting this much locking in these things.
Looks very reminiscent to stock car racing, just trying to get through here, trying not to lock the brakes up and make mistakes and open the door up like you just did there.
And now it's Vlad with one more driver to get before he can start chasing down Michael Avlisson. I don't think he's going to catch Michael in time unless Michael completely loses it, but Vlad's going to have to make up this gap first. Eric Blix has defended very well and very valiantly, and it looked almost a bit of a bumper there from the 77. I don't know if that was overdriving or a strategy, but doesn't quite go down that way. And Vlad is going to stay in range, but not quite ready to make his move now. The number of passing opportunities on this track, they haven't been significant. You've identified turn 1. Justyn, there's been the Foster's corner added on as well, but other than that, it really is just waiting to exploit the other driver a little bit.
Trying to make use of the left-handers. These cars seem to have a little bit increased performance in left-handers from where the right side is asymmetrical. As we see lockup coming into the corner, doesn't get into the rear of them. Almost looked a little sketchy there.
Almost every corner looks sketchy between these drivers, but Vlad Tokarev needs these points if he wants to have a chase for the championship. We'll apply the drop round after this week, and for week 4, I'll show you the championship standings after each race, but it's very nip and tuck between a lot of the drivers so far. Here's Vlad still looking to make the pass. Foster's is the next best corner to do it. Still doesn't materialize. He is running out of time rapidly as Michael Avlisson turns down the clock. It will be 2 to go very soon, and he's about to cross that start-finish line. Here he is, and once he crosses, we're only on 2 to go. It's 1-on-1 between Vlad and Eric. You can't say they haven't been racing well, but getting through every lap has been an achievement in itself. Vlad Tokarev set the fastest lap as Daniel Solo really falls back there again, slipping out on the exit. He had a very promising start to this race. He did have to turn the end of line. He did at the last possible second. He made that about as inconvenient and difficult for us as possible, I'll be totally honest. I was getting nerves just trying to commentate him serving a penalty as Vlad now trying to size him up. It's still not happening. He's only going to have one more chance at that corner. Do you think he will make this? He has any chance of making this one up?
He has a chance again on this 95-0 bumper here. Just trying to really close the exit, trying to make sure he can use all the available grip coming here in the turn one. Trying to make sure he closes up that gap. Just right there, about 2 car lengths off of him. Closing, better on the brakes than the 95. Question is, can he stuff it in there? Coming down, final lap.
He's faster on paper, but passing it has been so hard all day, and Michael Justyn has indeed started our fastest lap. Foster's is going to be the next best chance for Vlad Tokarev to make this move done. And I think if he has to use the bumper, he will. He goes for a bit of a dive. The 95 there covers the inside excellently. Eric Blick still covering. Vlad Tokarev really tries to force his way in. He is held off there by the car of Eric Blick. There's no patience whatsoever. We can't look away from this battle for a second. I think he has the exit speed, though. I think he has the advantage. But Eric Blix is putting his cards in the right place. He's playing his cards very much right. It's going to be side by side into these last few corners. Vlad Tokarev needs to get a perfect exit, but he's going to have to do it from the outside and put this 95 under pressure. Both brakes lock. Vlad takes the lead into the final corner. There's door banging. I think he's going to make it over the line. I think he is going to get it done in P2. What a last lap pass. Of course, Michael Justyn didn't quite get to celebrate, but he takes home another sprint win. And this is one that could feature win even. And this is one that Michael Justyn, he earned, but Vlad really could have taken if it wasn't for that accident early in the race. This time, I think he only has himself to blame. But an excellent comeback journey. What an epic, epic race. I think these drivers are about to give us a fun show to end the day. Any reflections while our Oulton Tech drivers go ahead and take the jump?
Got to see a lot of good Volvos wrecked here.
I mean, these are perfectly fine cars. Why would you let them die like this? I feel like they have plans. Plans within plans. Plans bigger than all of us. Away they go. Only one of them gets to really hit the ground as no, Michael doesn't even make the fence. Well, that was a thrilling race. Did turn out to be thrilling. The passing wasn't quite that easy, but Vlad Tokarev made it count for that P2, and really everybody earned their place out here today as we bring up our results. Michael Justyn takes another feature win. Vlad Tokarev getting a clean P2 over the line. Eric Blix takes P3. Daniel Solo takes 4th. Nicholas Ramson takes 5th, with Will Shack in 6th, and Kingsley Nwoko not finishing the feature race after an incident on lap 1. Well, that was a crazy, wild race, and it was a lot of fun to be here with you for it all. Do you how much? Well, I'm not going to ask do you respect, because I'm sure you do, but quite how much do you respect these drivers for getting this around here?
It's tough. Those cars are not easy to whip around here, much less try to keep them underneath you going through the braking zones. Just really want to lock up on you. It's real tough. Nothing can understate that.
Michael Justyn, you didn't get to face the big Vlad in his in a 1v1 battle. He was too busy racing the drivers behind hard. You got a pretty easy win that time around, but how was this track for you?
Very, very weird to drive. Was very loose all over the place, so it's just drifting around everywhere. But it was fun.
Here's a very loose, very tricky track. Could the car really take the elevation change properly, or was that just off the table for you?
It was just off the table to just throw it into the corner and hope that you made it on the exit.
And that Foster's Corner claimed quite a few victims. That's the new corner that we added to the short level. We was added to the short layout with that nasty little curb. Did you hear from any of your teammates about some of those battles down there? Because it was a little bit chaotic.
Yeah, they were doing monkey noises at some point when they were battling each other, so yeah, I heard a lot of stuff.
Well, any shout outs before we round off this show? Because you're free now. I don't even need to do the maths to tell you that you have probably a firm championship lead, but about halfway through and the tracks start getting a little bit freaky.
Yeah, sadly I'm missing next round because I'm away, but at least I have a drop round, so hopefully I'm still in the potential championship lead come end of the season. Otherwise, some of the Alcantech guys maybe can get a win for me instead while I'm gone.
As long as we get to see you on the dirt, that's all that matters. We'll just thank you for showing up and a fantastic third win on the books. This car's scary, but you're one of the two that makes it look easy. And I'd like to see you and Vlad have at least one or two good battles out there. So a bit of a wild show today. Sorry for a little any disruption along the way, but technology is hard. But a great race, and whether you caught the remnants of it live or you're catching the video after the fact, I hope you enjoyed. We'll be back here at the same time as usual, Fridays at 9 p.m. GMT, for the short version of Oran Park next week. It's another track very much like this, with crazy elevation change and some fast sweepers. It's a very different sort of experience. I've been Howie Burroughs, and alongside Justyn Reynolds. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time on the channel. Subscribe for more. Plenty more events where that comes from.